Well, today we are going to create the newest member in our gnome family. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy she is to make. All right, here are all of the pieces for the gnome we're going to make today. And as you saw in the intro, this is a lady gnome. So let's go over what all the pieces are. I tried to lay them on my tile as close to where they are on the cutting pattern as I could. So we have 4 of the back pieces. We have 3 noses. And we'll make 1 back piece out of these 4 pieces. We'll make 1 nose of the 3 nose pieces. We have 6 shoes, so we'll make 2 shoes. Same with the hands. There are 6 hands, a right and a left, 3 right, 3 left. We'll make a right and a left hand. We have her hat, 3 pieces for that. We have the back of the coffee cup or a hot cocoa cup or whatever you feel she's drinking. We have the liquid filler for it, and then we have the front of the cup. And these pieces here are her braids, which will form 2 braids for her hair. So we're going to start gluing these together. And while we do that, I will try to talk and not lose my voice and tell you what we're doing a little bit in case you haven't watched my videos on these before. This is a free downloadable pattern. The link for the pattern is in my blog post for this video. It's free for you to download. And you can make as many gnomes from it as you wish. I just ask that you, and you can even sell the gnomes. If you make gnomes, you can sell them at wherever you want to sell them. I just ask that you don't sell my pattern. The only compensation I get for creating the pattern is when you guys click on the video or click on the blog post to watch what I'm doing and that kind of thing. So please respect my time, because I really want to keep giving you guys these free patterns, but if too many people are breaking the rules, I'm going to have to stop. There's the free downloadable pattern will have, it's a file, and in the file are 3 separate pieces. There is a PNG file to be used with an electronic cutting machine. There's also a text file that gives you some hints and tips and tricks for using that PNG file, like sizing and any hints and tips that I have come up with over the time that I've been doing these. You will also find a PDF. The PDF is so you can print it out and cut your pattern with scissors by hand and do it that way. Now these are cut from a medium weight white cardstock. There'll be a lot more details about all of this in the blog post, by the way, because for some reason I seem to be losing my voice this morning. We're doing this out of white cardstock because it's, when we paint it, it looks less like cardstock, and also I find that the paint usually stays truer to color over time than cardstock. Cardstock fades really quickly sometimes. So I am going to rest my voice. I'm going to finish gluing these together, and when these are all glued together and the glue has dried, I'll come back and we can start the painting process. All right, the glue is all dried and I have these put onto tape. I've taped down a piece of masking tape with the sticky side up, and I've divided my pieces by color. So let's go for that first. I'm not going to paint all of these on camera. I have the 2 hair braids. They are going to be a golden yellow. This is the hot chocolate or coffee, whatever in your world your Mrs. Gnome is drinking. That's going to be a brown. I have the 2 parts to the cup. I'm going to paint them red. I have the 2 hands. Make sure you orient them so you have a right and a left, remembering that there's a little thumb piece up on top. And the nose. The nose is bigger than this, and remember, it's 3 layers. This is only 2. These will be a flesh color. Her 2 shoes are going to be black, and the body or back piece and the hat are going to be a nice bright blue. We are going to do some detail painting on these. A couple of things to be aware of. It's vitally important that the glue is completely dry. This video is actually running way behind because it's so cold and so humid where I live. My paint and glue are taking probably 3 times as long to dry than they normally do. And I don't like to use things like heat guns or anything like that because I find that it affects the quality of my work. So I'm going to start painting. I'll get these all nice and coated. And once this paint dries, eventually, I'll come back and we can do some detail work and start putting this together. So let's start from this side. It's really simple to paint these pieces because they're basic shapes. And I've made this so you can kind of divide it up by color. So this is Golden Sunset. If you want to know what colors of paint I'm using, there will be a photo of each set of colors with their paint jar on the blog post. So you can kind of see what colors I'm using, but feel free to use similar colors or change the color scheme entirely depending on what you want for your dollhouse. So that's all there is to painting that one. I have some dark brown I'm just using out of this tube. And I think I can get it off that lid. I used to try and keep these partway off the tape, but I have found that having them all the way or as much on the tape as I can actually makes cleanup a lot easier because any paint that I paint over and onto the background stays on the tape, where if it hangs over the tile like here in the very tip, I'm probably going to have to trim that off or fiddle with it a little bit more. So I am going to get this cup painted red and then I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to paint the rest of these. Yeah, probably that brush. I just grabbed 6 brushes because I've got 6 colors going here. Some of these might need 2 coats, some might not. It all depends on how it goes. So I will see you when this coat of paint is completely dry and we're ready to go on to details. All right, the paint is, I'm happy with the colors of paint that I've got on here, and I'm ready to do some detail painting on top. But first, I'm going to add an insurance coat of, I'm going to attempt to get enough matte Mod Podge out of here to coat the pieces that I want to do some details on. And those are the braids for the hair, and you only need to do the tops. You don't need to do the sides on this. I'm going to do the front of the mug. You don't need to worry about doing the back part, which includes the handle. Just this part. And, excuse me, the hat. And you might be saying, well, why are we doing this? Why are you putting this Mod Podge on here? I am putting a coat of matte Mod Podge on because I'm going to be putting, like I said, some detail paint on the top. I'm going to make the braids look like braids instead of just a strange hunk. And I'm also going to paint on a little tie for her braid. I'm going to attempt to put a snowflake or other design on the mug. And I'm going to make some kind of design on the hat. Because the raw paint is very porous, if I make a mistake, it's going to be really hard to get those mistakes off. With a coat of matte Mod Podge, the paint will still stick really well. If I couldn't have used the matte, I would have used satin. The paint will still stick to it. I just prefer to use matte if possible. It will stick on, but if I need to clean it up, I can very quickly use a cotton swab with a little bit of water on it and wipe off any mistakes, basically erasing them, and start over. That way, if I make a boo-boo when I'm trying to do the details, I'm not stuck with it. So this needs to dry all the way. Once this Mod Podge is dry, I'll come back and we'll add some details. All right, I'm going to do a very simple braid, not really a braid, it's supposed to just represent a braid. Maybe after we make a few of these little lady gnomes, I'll figure out how to draw a real braid. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw some lines. I've been playing around. If you guys knew how many times I have painted lines on this one and wiped them off, you would probably laugh. It's but I think for this time, this will be fine. And I'm just using like a ball tool. just something to give an impression that there's some shadows in her hair. All right, wipe that off. And that color I was using was just Woodsy Smoke, which is kind of a grayish brown. Let's work on the cup. For that, I've got some white paint. If I get the lid off of the white paint. Should have done that earlier. All right. Now, I think I'll use the same, whoops, that's the brush I had, same dotting tool. Let's start with a red circle. And then I'm going to, I've got a bunch of little tiny brushes here. Oops, almost dropped that. This may look more like a flower than a snowflake, and that's okay. Yeah, I think we're going to have a flower on her mug, not a snowflake. We're okay with that, right? Actually, it's so cold around here, I can't get warm, so I don't want to sit here very long and try to paint this, so yeah. Yeah, I like that. All right, let's work on the hat. So for the hat, I'm going to do something, just kind of a random design. Just going to take some blue. This is Paradise Blue by Ceramicoat, and a really small brush. I don't really have any kind of picture of a design. I'm just making lines. And a little bit on top. And I have the same white we just used. And I am going to, I'm going to use the other end. I'm going to use the handle end of this. So I want slightly larger dots than I would get with the ball tool. There. I'm going to let that dry. Once the paint is completely dry, I will come back and we can start putting our Mrs. Gnome together. I started to clear off my table and realized I forgot to put the little ties on her hair. So let's get this back. This is the blue that we used for this. And my dotting tool again. I'm just going to dip into the lid. And for this, we're just going to go across here. There's kind of a notch in. There. And now, when this all dries, I'll come back and we can start assembling. All right, now that all my painting is done and the paint is dry, we're going to start putting our gnome together. And the construction's a little bit different than it was on the boy gnomes, because these have no beard, obviously, and they have braids. So what I'm going to do, I've got a piece of washi tape, and my washi tape happens to have lines on it, which is going to be really handy for this. Again, sticky side up. And I'm going to put this piece, this little braid right here. I'm going to try and line it up with the bottom of that particular stripe. And then I'm going to see where I want this one. And this way I can position these. I can get them even in all directions. Get them the way I want them. Hopefully I'm not sticking my head in the camera. And the idea is that they line up pretty close with the edges of the hat. And I like how that looks. So I've got my glue over here to the side. to put glue just on that end. And then I'm going to line this up. And I'm going to kind of tip this so that the tip of the hat is against my tray up here. I know it's a little bit off camera. See if I can just a little bit. There we go. There. That way when I put her all the way together, she'll be the way I want her to be. Now, when I'm happy with how this is all sitting, I've got the nose. And this is the painted side, so glue on the other side. Okay, come on. All right, and I want that glue to set up enough that nothing will move. So we're going to let this part dry at least 20-30 minutes just so it will stay together when we put it onto the body. So when this is dry, I'll come back and we can go on to the next step. All right, the glue on our hat unit has gotten dry enough that it's not going to fall apart when I mess with it. So now I'm going to take the body. I could have done this on the last batch too, but I didn't want to move that piece that was on the tape. I've got the shoes and the body here. And I want to get these lined up with the bottom as best as I can. Some parts of the assembly of this are going to look very familiar if you've watched any of my other gnome videos where I've done the gentleman gnome. I don't know what to call him. I don't know what to call these two sets of gnomes. Now we're going to put glue. See, it's still soft, so I got to be careful here. And I probably should have dry fit this. I just realized after I put all the glue on it. So I'm putting glue on the very tip because it will touch there and it will touch there. And I'm going to put this up. Probably about there will be fine. All right, now I'm going to put her off to the side, and I have the three parts of our cup. The cup itself. Make sure that you've got paint pushed out from that handle hole. We've got the front of the cup, and we've got the whatever it is that the gnomes are drinking. So I'm going to kind of dry fit this. I want to put this on here so that there's a slight red rim. This is going to be one of those times when my fingers are like way too big for what I'm doing. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is put glue here. I am going to get my pointy tool and a piece of raw spaghetti, which I just broke. Oh, you were not supposed to fall off. This piece is just almost too heavy to pick up this way. Try and have a fairly even space there at the top. I had the pointy tool just in case I needed to use that to manipulate that a little bit, but I didn't. And on the cup, try to line up as close as you can to the filling and to this edge. Don't worry about what the bottom edge is doing. Off camera, I'm going to line this up a little better. I'm going to let the glue dry. When the glue is dry, we can go on to the next step. All right, our glue has set up again to the point where we can add our mug, and you can kind of play around with it. I'm going to put it, I think, probably right below the little blue pieces on her hair. And I'm just going to kind of coat the back of the mug with glue, knowing that the whole thing is not going to touch anything, but then I've got glue everywhere. Everywhere that might touch. And making sure my mug is right side up. Now where you position this is up to you. Now we have our hands, because after all she's got to hold on to her cup of, what is it, do you think? Is she drinking hot chocolate or is she drinking coffee? I think in my mind she's drinking coffee. Other side. And now this glue will need to dry all the way, because if there's any glue not dried and we put Mod Podge over the top of it, it could remain foggy. I think I'm going to put a small weight on this just to make sure that it stays down. But I think she's turning out absolutely adorable. When she's dry, we'll come back and we'll put some Mod Podge on, and then we can see her in front of the dollhouse when she dries. All right, my glue is completely dry, and I have some satin Mod Podge here. I'm going to actually start by going around the edges. And I'm going to get a piece of parchment to lay this on. Just in case I get any Mod Podge kind of seeped around to the back side. I don't want it to stick to my tile. The Mod Podge does a couple of things. It is an additional layer to help hold this together and disguise the fact that we made this out of layers of cardstock. And because it's a satin finish, it just makes this look more finished. It makes it look a little bit shiny, but not overly shiny. So I'm going to wipe off some of this excess that I've gotten while I was talking. I am going to let this dry, and once this dries, I'll meet you over at the porch on the dollhouse, and we can see how she looks alongside the rest of our winter decorations. I'll see you there. All right, I've moved our new gnome onto the front porch, where she's joined by not only our other winter gnome, but our other things that we've made in the, I think I call it the snowman playlist. If you enjoyed today's project, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future projects? Be sure and check the blog post. There's going to be photos and information, as well as the link to download the pattern so you can make the new gnome for your dollhouse. If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, be sure and hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching me today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.